Well, hey, welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall, back here again for another week. How's it going?
It's going pretty well.
What? Tell me a little bit about what happened to your head before people start thinking that I started punching you.
Right. You didn't actually punch me. In fact, I need to let everybody know I am a wizard.
No, you are not.
I'm a wizard. Actually,
you're a wizard, Harry.
I just had a small accident at the recycling yard. I turned in some recycling yesterday and bent over to pick up something I dropped on the ground and banged my head on the recycling table, on a sorting table.
And that's the story you're going to stick with.
That's it. I was not abused. I fell off the swing. I was not abused at all.
Well, hey, welcome to A Valid Answer again. Scott and Marshall, you're a conservative capitalist. I'm not the atheist. I'm the pastor. You're the liberal socialist atheist.
That's it.
Yeah, we got our things going on. What you're seeing right now is, first off, what you're seeing is literally an act of love right now, because love is actually a commitment of the will. It's not a feeling it's not like, oh, I feel like this today and I feel in love. No, what you're seeing right now is a commitment of the will, because both of us, it's a really tough weekend. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for the commitment we have to you, our listeners, we love you so much. If it wasn't for the commitment we have to you, our listeners, we would not be here right now, because I've had a crazy busy weekend with very little sleep. I got a nap today, so I was able to kind of come back and be a little bit, not zombie-ish like I was earlier today. You got a lot of stuff going on, but we love you guys. We want to be here. We want to continue the discussion, especially with everything that's happening in the news and things that are going on. We definitely want to be here for you guys and not let you down. We promise we're going to promise to be here, and we're going to be here. So there we are.
We've got to get this shared out. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing homework real quick while we get
Josh.
This squared away.
Yeah. So yeah, that mark on your head, if it were a lightning bolt, I would believe that you're a wizard. But yeah, that's
I'm only half the wizard that Harry Potter is.
Only half. Still. Yes. It's not the. It's just a.
Yeah, right.
That's all there is there. Oh my gosh! Well, we're about to get into a heavy topic because it's coming up in the news. A lot of things are happening in the news with several states. Basically, if you look at it, they're preparing their attacks on Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. They're setting up their state laws that eventually will have to go against that and set it up in an arena that is leaning conservative right now. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these conservative states and right-wing states are playing their cards to, let's put these laws in place. Is that basically what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, they believe that the conditions on the Supreme Court are favorable, since they now have a conservative bias on the court. I think it's 5-4 conservative, and they're trying their luck, which, okay. All
right. Well, hey, let's address this right now, because both Jackie comes in right here and says, what right do two men have to speak about what's happening in a woman's body? What right? And if we want to apply that to everything, that's really that's a logical fallacy. That's ad hominem, right? Where you're attacking.
No, I don't think so.
You're attacking the person and not the argument. You're literally saying, oh, unless you are this person, then you can't even talk about the argument. If that were the case, then nobody other than football players can talk about football. Nobody other than doctors can address things that are doctors. Anybody can talk about anything. We can have this discussion. We have every right to have this discussion, and that is really just a logical fallacy. You can that's nonsensical to say. How can two men talk about what's happening with women? Well, that's dumb. We're not policymakers. We're not making a rule right now. Mm-hmm. We're talking about this. So we're talking about what's going on. So.
Well, and I also want to add it was signed into law by a woman. And I do agree, though, Jackie, to some degree that this really isn't so much a topic for men as it is a topic for women to hash out. And this is really something
It's a topic for human beings.
Well, I get that, right? Half of the children who are aborted are male.
And half are female.
But
they're human beings.
So
they're human beings, and that's why it's a discussion
I still
for human
think
beings.
It's a legitimate question, however. Why are men trying to write rules and legislate what happens inside of women's bodies?
But hold on a second. So if the murderer is female or the victim is female, then men can't write laws about female murder. They can only riot if it's about males.
No, this is something entirely different.
It is
because
not.
We're talking
it is killing.
Men don't go through pregnancy.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. This is about protecting a human life. It's the responsibility of the society to protect innocent life. That is one of the responsibilities of society, is to protect human life. Wherever it is, you have to protect human life. That's what makes it a valid discussion across the board.
So if our society is committed to protecting life, then why aren't we ensuring that children have clean water, or
you have to
that
start with
children who are
protecting
crossing
life.
the border are, not dying in custody and all
You
of
have
these
to
other
pr-
things?
you have to
Why are we
protect
practicing the
human
death
life.
penalty? Why are we denying health insurance to
You
millions
have
of
to,
Americans?
you have to protect innocent human life.
Well, these
Innocent
are
is the
innocent
word,
people.
not the death penalty. Innocent human life.
Okay,
Don't
so
tie
what
that all
about
together.
people who need health care?
That is not protecting life. You're stopping someone from being killed. Again, we're not going to get into this. If you don't provide, then you are killing that person. No, we're talking an actual act of killing, an actual act where somebody is going out of their way to end a life. That is different than, well, you're not providing medicine, therefore you're killing me. That's not the same.
So what do you think is the moral obligation of a person who has the ability to save a life and they refuse to act? They simply sit and watch.
So if there's an accident and you're saying that at any accident, a car that somebody stays in their car, you're going to hold them accountable if somebody dies. At any accident site, that's what you're saying.
No, I think it's
that's what you have to
different
do.
from that.
No, that's what you have to do. That's the logic. That's the logical continuation of your thought. You're trying to say, if you can do something and you don't, you are now liable. So you're going to hold every single accident scene to that logic, that if you don't act and you could, you're liable. Are you liable if you don't act?
No. I think it's a matter of, what if you withhold something that's life-saving from somebody who needs it?
Now you're changing the goalpost. Okay, cool. So
either
way, can you hold somebody liable for not doing something?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
When?
We do all the time.
Yeah.
Well, for example, if
it's called
parents
negligence.
don't take care of their kids, right?
Because there is a legal responsibility for that person. There's a legal responsibility that you accept as that person's guardian, or as that person, whatever the contract is, if you were negligent.
Who determines what that legal responsibility is?
How do you mean?
How do we determine what legal responsibilities people have in our society?
Well, it's the laws, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if as a society we agree that people have a legal responsibility to protect or save lives, then that's the law, right? And that's what we have to do. Doesn't that establish sufficiently that you need to, take care of people? You need to, for example, feed your children. Doctors need to care for their patients, regardless of whether or not they can pay for their care. And perhaps we could even pass a law that says pharmaceutical companies need to make medications available for people, regardless of whether or not they can pay.
There is a difference between the action of killing somebody and not taking a step to save someone.
Mm-hmm.
On a legal sense, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm talking about.
So if I'm a state, prosecutor or a officer of the law, and a person wants to get an abortion, that's creating a positive obligation for me to go out and prosecute that person. So if I choose not to prosecute that person, if I just stand back and watch this woman get an abortion, am I now responsible for, the killing of the unborn child?
No, I don't believe you're responsible.
So if I'm an agent of the law, if I'm a prosecutor, or if I'm a police officer, or if I'm a nurse or anything, and I watch another person have an abortion and I don't intervene in any way, shape, or form, then I'm not going to be held responsible, right?
I don't believe so. I think it might be different for a police officer because there's a sworn in. There's a thing where they swear in to take action against. So there's a legal requirement. There's a legal requirement there for that. I want to address some of these things. Again, Jackie, this is great. I'm glad you're on this discussion. This is gonna be really good today. She says, I didn't accept any legal responsibility for being a woman when I was born a woman. I didn't decide that I should carry a child. There's no way to legally accept being born. You are just born. That's nature. You were born a woman. That's what naturally happened. That is the nature. Women have the capacity to carry children. Men do not. The female can carry a child. The male cannot. In the human, in the human being, in the Homo sapien, whatever. What is the word I'm looking for? Species. And so that's just the way it is. That's the way nature. That's the way I'm not even going to bring God into this. That's just the way nature made us. Male, female. Females can carry children. Males cannot. There's no fault. There's no blame. There's nothing. That's just the way biology works. That's just the way science is. That's just the way nature is.
Jackie knows that. I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it's ridiculous to even say I didn't accept legal responsibility to be a female. Well, you're born that way. You're still going to be. You still have that responsibility. Just because you didn't legally accept the responsibility of being a childbearer, you're the only part of the species that can. That's just nature. It has nothing to do with. I can't just say, hey, it doesn't make sense to say I'm not legally responsible for being a woman. You were just born a woman. That's what it is. That's nature. That's natural. That's science. That's biology. There's nothing legal on that. But what I'm getting at is the protection of human life. That is paramount in this argument.
But it's only the protection of a human life by not doing something.
Yes, exactly. Just like the same thing. We want to stop people from murdering others. Yes, we want to stop that.
Okay,
That's
but
fine.
that creates a positive obligation on the state to intervene and prevent murder.
Yes,
That's a positive right now, because people now are obligated to go out and do something for other people.
no, the law is there to. There needs to be a law that says you cannot kill another person, and if you do, you will be punished.
Okay, which again creates a positive obligation.
No, it does not create a positive obligation.
Right.
No, it does not create a positive right.
Because now, what happens if a police officer doesn't intervene to prevent a killing?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No.
So the police
The
don't
law-
even have to protect people then?
No, they don't. They don't have a legal requirement to protect. They have a requirement to punish and apply the law to the criminal.
And what if they don't?
Then they're not fulfilling their duty. But what I'm saying is it is not a positive right, because you cannot say nobody will die under my watch. That you can't control that. That's not a positive right that you can guarantee.
Well,
but you can.
and I'm not saying that.
That's
but
exactly what
I'm
you're saying. That's what a positive right is.
There
what
may
you
be
can
a
say
situation where an officer of the law is deliberately negligent because they don't want to intervene in a situation.
Then they'll be held accountable according to what they've sworn in to do. But what I'm talking about is creating a law that says if you kill another human being, there are punishments for that.
Okay,
That's what it is. And abortion needs to fall under that same protection of you cannot murder a person, you cannot murder your child, you cannot murder an unborn baby.
Okay, but then in order to enforce that law, it creates positive rights.
It does not.
For example, the right to a trial by a jury, right? Because that person now is going to face a trial, and if they choose to have a jury, now you have to make people come sit on a jury.
But it's no different than any other law. That's what I'm saying. We just need to expand the law of murder to include abortion.
So what's your point if it's not different than any other law?
Expand the law to include abortion. Abortion is murder. Right now, you can kill a baby and not be tried for murder. That needs to change. Abortion needs to be covered under murder for killing another human being. Done. That's all the difference is. Protecting the human life from being killed. That's all that's being asked, to include the baby in the idea of murder. We're not creating a new concept. We're not creating a new concept of law. It already exists. We're simply saying it's a human being that needs to be protected. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all that it is.
Diane is asking, can you be anti-abortion and pro-death penalty?
Yes, because the difference is innocent. This is an innocent person who has done nothing wrong. Mm-hmm. They must be protected.
What if they threaten the mother's life?
They're not an aggressor. They are not there again.
So you can't get abortion even if the pregnancy threatens to kill the mother.
Well, we talked. It is a trauma situation at that point. It's a trauma situation that is faced in any other trauma situation. The doctor must say whichever one is the most likely to live. That's a trauma situation.
So life of the mother's okay.
Life of the mother's okay if that is the most survivable. If the doctor in the trauma situation is just like any other trauma situation. There's two lives. Which one do you save? Do you save the one that's most likely to live? I'm assuming that's what doctors do. You save.
What if it's a mental health situation? What if the mother's going to commit suicide because she can't get an abortion? She's pregnant and she's about to commit suicide unless she has an abortion. Now that's a trauma situation, is it not?
I'm not real sure.
Because
if it were, then it's still a medical situation.
And so the doctor could then make the decision to go ahead and perform the abortion.
Yeah, but that's a lot tougher to prove if someone just says, "Oh, I'm suicidal."
Well, it'd be up to experts.
Yeah.
It'd be up to professional experts.
But yeah. So that's all. And again, that's a topic, and this is a subject that applies to everyone. It's just about human beings.
One of the
protecting human
issues
beings.
I want to raise is you keep calling the unborn a baby.
Yes.
And so Jackie asked the question, if I eat an egg, did I eat an egg for breakfast or did I eat chicken? You know, it's sort of the same thing. You know, you're conflating the term baby when there's really something distinct happening here.
No, it is a baby. It is an individual human being. It has its own DNA. It has its own heartbeat. It has its own brain waves. It has all of that
When
stuff
does it
in
become
there.
a baby?
When it has its, I say it's a baby when it has its own DNA.
Okay.
That is a unique human being. Its own DNA is there. I think for scientific purposes, I think there needs to be. I mean, if there's a heartbeat, if there's brain waves, it's a person. It's a developing person. It's a baby.
At what point do you get all those in a pregnancy? Do you know?
I don't know. That would be a medical question.
Okay.
But in either most of the time, as far as from what I've seen, by the time you know you're pregnant, the fetus has developed to that point where it does have its own fetal heartbeat. It does have its own brain waves going on. As I understand it, it's within a few weeks that's happening. But either way, it is a unique human being. It has its own DNA print that is not her. It is not the father. It is not the mother. It is its own unique human DNA fingerprint that is its own unique person.
So if the egg has its own DNA, which it does, and if there's some sort of brainwave inside the egg going on between the cells as it's fertilized and developing, you're then eating a chicken?
Sure, yeah, you're eating a chicken egg. Sure, it's just
You're eating a chicken.
fine. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
You want to get now you're the one who wants to get into semantics. Fine, call it a chicken if you want to. I
Well,
don't
the
really care.
semantics matter. Okay, so here's a hypothetical for you.
Yeah.
You can. There's a fire out of fertility clinic or something like that. You can either save a toddler or you can save 12 fertilized embryos. Which do you save?
Good question.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if life begins at conception, then those 12 embryos are human lives.
Mm-hmm.
So who do you save? Do you save the toddler or do you save the embryos? You can't carry both out of the burning clinic or what have you.
At this point, I would probably save the toddler because the toddler can feel the suffering that the embryos cannot.
And there we go.
Yeah.
Right? So there's
At this point, you just said embryos. At that particular point, there is not the pain that's happening there. Now, if they were, further along, I try to save all of them, obviously.
You'd save the 12 instead of the toddler.
Not frozen embryos. We're talking about like if there was a way, yes, if there was a scientific way that these embryos were put into and they are developing as human beings in some sort of scientific thing that we cannot actually do in science.
A decanter to Brave New World style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then yes, that would obviously be I don't see how saving 12 of those units would be easier than saving one toddler. But in that particular case, yes, if that was what was happening, but a frozen embryo, no, I'd go for the baby first because I'd go for the toddler first because there is a chance that this toddler could feel pain that the embryos can't if they're frozen embryos. But yeah, if there was that scientific thing where there was 12 actually developing babies outside. Honestly, science is the answer. If we could find a way of getting an embryo and growing it outside the mom, then cool. I'm not saying women must carry the child all the way to birth. I'm just saying protect the life. If there's a scientific way to protect the life, then do the scientific way and protect the life. It's not about enslaving women.
But if there's not,
then you have to save both lives. You have to protect both lives.
Okay, so the woman carries this unwanted pregnancy to term or to whatever. The baby is born. Now, who becomes responsible for the baby?
That's not even the discussion that I'm talking about right now.
But that's huge.
It is huge.
Natural consequence of this policy.
That is huge, but that is not the discussion I'm having right now. The discussion I'm having right now is why it's important to protect. Why it's important that it's a human life to protect until it's born.
What if I say you win? I agree, but now what do we do once the kid's born?
So you agree? I win? You agree?
If this is something to win, I really want to know.
Do you agree? Do you agree that human life needs to be protected at all stages? Do you believe it's a human life and it deserves protection under the law? And to kill it is to be murdering a human being.
Well, the problem is, because while in a way I think those statements are largely true, I still have an issue that ultimately when a human being is inside the body of another human being and the consent is either not given or it is revoked for whatever reason.
Cannot be revoked.
Yes, it can.
No, it cannot.
Yes, it can.
No, it can't.
If a man starts to have sex with a woman and she says stop, he
then
has
you can
to stop.
stop
Otherwise, it's rape.
Because an act hasn't
and if
happened.
he doesn't
yes, that's
stop
fine.
raping,
yes,
then she can kill him.
And that's fine because the act hasn't happened.
What do you mean it hasn't happened?
Once the human life has been created, there is now a creation that is there. There is now a life that is in you cannot undo that life without killing it. All right? So I own guns. Mm-hmm. All right? I own guns. I choose to own a gun. I choose to have the responsibility of having a gun. Mm-hmm. That's my choice. I'm going to have that gun. It's there. I accidentally pull the trigger and it kills you. Mm-hmm. You know what? I revoke that responsibility. I take it back. I don't want the responsibility of owning a gun. Can I just revoke that and it's not my responsibility anymore?
No, you're on the hook for that.
Exactly, because I did something with it. I can no longer revoke that. I can no longer say, I no longer want the responsibility of owning a gun. I know I've taken a life. I've done something that cannot be turned around. Whatever the circumstances, the pregnancy cannot be turned around without killing someone. You cannot simply just say, oh, suddenly I'm pregnant. Oh, well, then I don't want the responsibility. Mm-hmm. That cannot be revoked. You've created something. And again, I'm not talking about people. Everybody wants to talk about, well, what about rape, incest? Okay, 0.004% of that.
It's
well, that's not
significant
what we're talking. It's right, but and fine. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who consented to have sex. What is the purpose of sex? Biologically, what's the purpose of sex?
Well, procreation.
Procreation. So if I engage in sex, what should be the expected outcome? Unless I take steps. Hold on. Unless I take steps to avoid it, what should be the expected outcome of sex?
Well, again,
what is the biological function?
Also develops intimacy.
That's right. But what's the biological?
Pleasure,
what's the biological function of sex? If I don't take steps, take steps to prevent it, what is the expected result of sex?
Well, eventually, sooner or later, all things being equal, pregnancy.
Yes, exactly. So that's the expected result. When I'm consenting to sex, I'm consenting to that. When I consent to own a gun, I am consenting to the fact that I may one day accidentally kill somebody with this. I know that. Somebody may die from this gun. When I own that gun, I know that is a possibility. Like you always said, that's what the gun was created for. The gun was created to kill somebody. So when I own a gun, I am accepting the responsibility that one day this gun may kill somebody in my hand. I'm accepting that responsibility. I know that that's what it was created for. I know that's what it does, and that's why it's there. Sex is there for procreation. When you have sex, you are consenting to the idea that this could produce a human being. And if that happens,
you're giving up control of your body for the next 9 months.
Yes, if that happens, if I don't take proper steps, if I don't keep the gun safe, I have to take responsibility for what happens to it. I have to take responsibility for what happens with that gun. You would hold me to that responsibility, wouldn't you? If I bought a gun and just laid it in the house and somebody accidentally, wouldn't that be my fault?
To a degree, yes,
yes.
It would be.
So I have to accept that responsibility and take protections to keep that from happening. But I know that the responsibility is there. And if something ever happens with it in my control, I'm responsible for that. The purpose of sex is procreation. That's the biological purpose of sex. So when you have sex, you are accepting the idea that this could create a human. And once you create a human being, that is an action that is not revocable. That human being exists. The only revocable way to do that is to kill that human being. That's the only way you can revoke your responsibility is to kill that human being.
And so then are you okay with giving women, and men even, free birth control, free contraceptives, free vasectomies, free, tube tying, all of these things? Are you okay with that?
Not for free. I mean, if there's a way to provide it, then they can get it. If I choose to, I don't want to have kids and I want to have sex, I take that step.
But you're compelling a woman to carry a pregnancy to term.
No.
And there's an enormous cost to the woman.
No. Let's not conflate it. I'm saying you don't have the right to kill it. I'm not telling you.
But the impact of that statement is now a woman is compelled to do something that's against her will.
No, she consented. She consented and created a life.
And people can't change their mind.
Not when it comes to another human being's life. The only way, listen,
We
the only
change our mind all the
right,
time
but the
when it
only
comes to
way
other human
the
lives.
only way that she can change her mind is to kill the human being. That's the only way she can change her mind. The human being was created as part of her action. The human being has done nothing, has had no choice in any of this, is not responsible in any way, is not being an aggressor, has no intent to harm. There is no malicious action by this other human being that was created by the actions of the mother. Again, leaving out the idea of rape and all that. I'm not saying if you're raped, it's your fault. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking 99.94% of the time, it is a choice that was made at one point that somebody wants to go back on. But that choice created a human being, and the only way you can revoke your choice is to kill the other human being. We cannot allow that to happen. It's a human being that needs to be protected.
But in order to do that, you're creating a positive obligation on the mother. You're creating a positive
We
right.
are not creating
Yes,
anything.
you are.
No, that
You're-
person
you're-
created that
You're
person
taking
created
control of a woman's body
it.
for 9
No,
months.
that person had their control. That person chose their control. That person then made the responsibility. Are you saying that if I kill somebody with my gun, there's no responsibility for me to go to jail after that? You're not going to compel me to go to jail if I kill somebody with a gun by the choice of my actions?
Yeah, but you've committed a crime in that case.
But okay, I understand that. But I'm saying a human life is in the line. That's the same thing. A human life hangs in the balance.
Is it really, though?
This is where it comes down to. This is what it has to come down to. The only way that your position holds any water is that you have to dehumanize the fetus. You have to do that. In every other way, if it's a human being, morally, legally, logically, it needs to be protected. The only escape that the pro-choice side has is to dehumanize it. Is that what we're going to do?
So are
you
you okay with abortion after conception if we don't have brainwaves, if we don't have a heartbeat?
I would say it would be very difficult to prove that it's a separate life without those things. So I think legally it would be very tough to say before that.
So you're pro-choice
morally,
a couple, 2, 3, few weeks, whatever.
Morally, no. Morally, to me, it's a human being at conception. But what can be proven by law is what the limits are. And I feel that it's a reasonable expectation that if it has a heartbeat, if it has brain waves, if it has its own DNA, it's its own unique human being. And if that's provable, then it needs to be protected. I don't know that it's provable. I don't know medically if that's provable beyond that point. So I'm not going to try to make that argument, even though I morally believe that. I know that there has to be legal ramifications and not ramifications, but there has to be legal definitions.
What about the man in this scenario? Does the man get off scot-free, or should there be some consequence for a man for creating a new life?
I absolutely believe that there should be some sort of financial obligation, or I don't think you can you can't force the two to be together as a couple, but I do believe that there is some responsibility that should be upheld by the other side of the person who was that equation. So
if you compel a woman to carry a baby to term, is the state then taking
I'm not going to let you use that language. We're not compelling the woman to.
Yes, you are.
No.
You're telling her that if she terminates the pregnancy,
She murdered someone.
then you're gonna bring her up on murder charges or something like that. Or in this case, according to the Alabama law, the doctor who performs the procedure. So basically, you're going to punish a person for making a choice.
Going to punish a person for killing a life.
Okay, so the effect of that is compulsion.
No, it is not.
How is it not compulsion?
It's natural. The compulsion is by nature, not by law. The compulsion is by nature. By nature, the person became pregnant. Biologically, they became pregnant. They are compelled by nature, not by law.
But the person has the ability to end the pregnancy one way or another.
Then
which,
it's murder.
by the way,
Then it's
women
murder.
are going to end these pregnancies regardless.
Then
just
it's
as
murder.
They always have throughout all of
You know what?
human history.
Right, and people are going to kill other people. We still need to have laws that say that's wrong and that's punishable.
Okay, are you okay with that, even if it means that a woman may resort to unsafe methodologies to abort the pregnancy?
I mean,
Would you prefer that if they've made that decision? Because look,
I mean,
if a woman is going to choose to terminate a pregnancy,
come on, wouldn't you prefer if somebody's going to plan to kill somebody that they lay out towels and they do it nice and neat so it doesn't create an inconvenience for everybody else? That's literally the argument you're trying to make right now.
No, it's not. You misunderstand the argument.
No, that's exactly what it is. You're trying to say, well, it's going to happen anyway, so wouldn't it be better if it happened in a good way? Murder's going to happen anyway. Wouldn't it be better if it happened in a good way?
Well, it seems to me if your value in this debate is life, then you should be doing anything that will preserve life, that minimizes the destruction of human life.
And that's fine. Our church can have programs that help people. They're going to take them in. We have adoption agencies. Let's further science as much as possible so that we can get the fetus out earlier and keep it alive. Let's do all those things. But I'm just talking about the legal requirement of protecting the life. That's where it has to start. None of this stuff will really come forward until there is the law that says you cannot murder another human being, and that extends to the womb.
Jackie points out getting fat is also nature, therefore is going to gym wrong.
No, why?
Well, because you're reversing nature.
Well, it doesn't matter. But you're not killing someone in the process,
You're
people.
killing fat cells. But
that's not
DNA.
They're not unique DNA. It's your own DNA. This is a unique DNA that is not your own.
Okay.
This is a unique DNA that is not your own. It's another human being that has its own unique DNA, its own heartbeat, its own brain waves, is a developing other person. You cannot just simply kill another person out of convenience.
Okay, so let's say you win. Okay, now there's all these children that are being born as wards of the state, or they're not wanted by their parents. What then?
All right, so then we develop all kinds of programs, get people. Let's figure that out. Let's figure that out when we can get them protected. That's fine.
Well, no, you need to figure that out now because you got a very short time frame. Do you realize how slow the government moves?
Right, but do you also realize how much that will drop?
How much? What will drop? What will drop?
Abortions.
Once
it's illegal.
Yeah, fine. Okay,
you'll get a drastic reduction in unwanted pregnancies.
How many abortions are there per year? I think it's in the millions.
Excuse me, not a drastic reduction in unwanted pregnancies. That's not what I meant to say. Yeah.
I think it's in the millions. So suddenly we're going to have millions of unwanted children. We're going to go from having maybe 100,000 kids up for adoption at any given moment to well upward of 1 million to maybe even 10 million. I don't know. But we're going to have millions of children each year added to, essentially they're going to be wards of the state because they don't have parents. So that creates a heck of a lot of positive rights, a lot of positive obligations on the state to take care of these children and so on.
Why does that fall to the state?
So it doesn't. Okay, maybe it doesn't. So what do we do with these kids once they're born? Do we just, you're a day old, you're born now, here's the step of the hospital? I mean, the Romans did that, by the way.
Did what?
Well, they would take the kid and just put it out, abandonment, and then the kid died. That's how they practiced abortion mostly during Roman times. It was very common with prostitutes because they would obviously get pregnant, they would produce a child, they would put the child out in the exposure is what it's called.
Yeah.
And literally they could tell where the brothels were in ancient Rome and other ancient cities because there would literally be a heap of child's infant's bones near the establishment. So is that what we're going to do then?
Tell you what, if that were the cost of saving the children, then I would say I would probably start to lean towards bigger social problems, more social programs. I would probably start to lean more towards bigger social programs if that meant saving hundreds of thousands of lives a year.
Well, welcome to the revolution, comrade.
But you would first have to protect the life. You'd first have to say it is illegal to have an abortion.
Well, I have a huge issue with taking away a woman's bodily autonomy. To me, that's anathema. I can't do that.
But there are medical reasons why autonomy cannot be preserved for both parties.
Well, again,
so autonomy must be surrendered by the responsible party. It cannot be surrendered by the party that has no responsibility.
There is no autonomy for that individual.
That's what I'm saying.
There is none. They don't get a choice.
Who?
The state is making the choice on behalf of that.
No, they made the choice already. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is they have made the choice. There are medical reasons why both parties cannot have autonomy. So the responsible party, the party that's responsible for the situation, is the one that has to give up its autonomy because the other party had nothing to do with it, had no choice in the matter, had nothing to do. They are not responsible in any way. And right now, an abortion shifts the responsibility to the baby and kills it. The baby that did nothing.
Again, the baby.
Yes, the baby that did nothing.
isn't really conscious, isn't really
Yeah,
self-aware.
so it could not make
doesn't
any
really
choice.
have-
It could not make any choice to put itself in that situation.
Right.
So why are we shifting the responsibility to the person who had no choice in it?
But why are we giving something that is neither conscious nor self-aware nor independent outside of a woman's body? Why are we treating that like a person who
Because
is?
it's a human being. It is its own unique DNA. It is its own human being.
So I'm throwing this at you. It's a philosophical question.
No, that's very good. If it's a human being, it deserves to have its rights protected. It deserves to have its life protected.
Even at the expense of autonomy of the mother.
Yes, because medically, not both autonomies can be protected. So you have to protect the innocent, and the person who and the responsible party must surrender their autonomy until the responsibility can be handed to someone else.
Okay, so I want to be clear.
Because they are
So
responsible.
the responsible party is surrendering their autonomy for the term
Because
of
of the
pregnancy.
choice they made. Yes. They chose that as a possibility.
What if they
accepted
didn't make
that.
the choice, though?
That I would have to concede. I would have to concede that in those situations, I don't know that I can logically stand there and say I still morally believe it's still a human being and it still wasn't that person's fault and it wasn't that person's fault. It wasn't either of their fault, but just because neither of them is at fault that we should allow one of them to die for that. I still don't morally believe that, but I don't think I can logically make that conclusion and uphold that in a logical, legal way, even though morally I believe just because this person came into existence because of the horrible actions of another person doesn't mean that, why does this human being have to pay that price? Mm-hmm. Why does this human being have to die because of what that person did? And I understand it's a crappy situation and I don't want that upon somebody. But again, why does that person have to pay? This innocent person who didn't do anything wrong, why does that person have to surrender their life for that action? Morally, that's where I stand. Legally and rationally and logically, I don't know that I can make that. And I think I would have to concede that if she was not the responsible party and is left with this, I would have to concede that rationally, she probably can't be held to that either. I would have to concede that point on a legal and rational basis, but morally, I still stand on the idea that why is the one person who didn't do anything, why are they the one paying the price? They should be protected.
So you're willing then, if we were to you're basically willing to go full socialism for children if we outlaw abortion. That seems to be the trade-off you agreed to previously.
I would probably have to agree to that trade-off.
Because I
would say this is where altruism has to step in. This is where churches have to step up. This is where the goodness of people have to step up and take that on and increase what they're supposed to do. Church, that's what you're supposed to do. We should be taking in the unwanted children. I think that's what should happen. I don't know if it will happen. So in that case, the government would have to step in.
Isn't that a slippery slope though?
Sure
to
heck
providing
is.
Free houses to homeless and
sure the heck is.
And food to
that's
everybody.
That's why I don't like it.
And wow.
Yeah, and that's why I don't like it.
Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah,
comrade.
that's why I don't like it.
You comrade commissar here, political officer. Wouldn't it be cheaper though
to just kill him? Probably.
The cheapest thing and the easiest thing for all involved would be contraceptive care.
That is available
all
everywhere.
Kinds.
You can get it for free. You can do it. It's available. That's not working. Mm-hmm. It's available. It's out there.
It is working, but
obviously it's not working when we're killing hundreds of thousands of people.
Abstinence-only education and other things. I think when you make contraceptives
right now
available,
you can get contraception for free. You can go to any clinic and get.
Well,
contraception
it's on the young girls and the women, and that's not always easily, especially for teenagers, to go do. But I think if you had condom distribution in schools and stuff like that, then it would certainly put a dent in this stuff.
And we have that, and it hasn't.
No, that's not the case. First of all, I don't think we really have that, and I believe where it has happened, there is a corresponding decrease in unwanted pregnancies.
And that'd be great. Cool.
Okay,
but
so you're on board with that.
But there's still hundreds of thousands of people dying.
Well, and there's still hundreds of thousands of kids waiting for adoption in the status quo, and there are no social programs, stepping up to take care of them hardly, and we're not doing anything to really expand access to contraceptive and family planning and all of that. So, in light of all that, I think abortion seems to be the route until you build up these programs that will, one, prevent the pregnancies, and two, take care of the kids if they're born after an unwanted pregnancy. I think abortion is the only other option.
You know what the side effects would be of banning abortion? Do you know one of the amazing side effects would be? An increase in the African American population.
That's fantastic.
Because over half of African American babies are aborted.
And I think that's a terrible tragedy.
And that is.
But what I want, though, is I want people to have the freedom, especially women, to have the freedom to choose for themselves. Because
they've made the choice. That's fine. They've made the choice.
One place where women have unique power, but you can change your mind.
You cannot change your mind after the fact.
If
you can't change the mind after the fact. I cannot say I don't want responsibility for this gun after I've already shot someone. I have taken the responsibility, and I've taken an action. There is an action, and a life is now on the line because of the action I took, because I chose this responsibility.
But emotionally,
it is there.
You're conflating a criminal act, a homicide, with getting pregnant. And they're not the same. They're not
equitable. The same. They're equitable in the fact that there is a responsibility that's chosen. And again, I'm not equating the act of murder. I'm equating the act of buying a gun. I'm equating the act of buying and owning a gun to the act of having sex, knowing that both of those have an outcome that's designed into them. And I'm accepting responsibility. Each of those, when I buy a gun, I'm accepting the responsibility that it may one day kill someone. That's what it's designed to do. When you have sex, it may one day create a life. That's what it's designed to do. And then if those actions are carried out, if those logical actions that we know that these were designed to do, that the intent of these things to do that, once those actions have taken place, we now have to be responsible for those actions.
I'm
not equating murder to having sex. I'm equating buying the gun and accepting the responsibility of what could happen to having sex and accepting the responsibility of what can happen. And then once that, if that happens, you are on the line for it.
Well, as you know,
cannot
Scott,
take it back. You can't take back your decision.
As you know, I'm a wizard. So let's say I could use my magic powers after somebody has been killed with your gun. You could use my magic powers to undo that deed. You can change your mind and unkill a person who's been killed. Would you not avail yourself of that option?
What is that? Sorry, I was reading. Diana's wondering if we're listening to her. Sorry about that. I want to get back to the question that she asked earlier. But she's like, "Hello, anybody there?" So there's a question she asked, and I was looking it up and reading it. But ask yours again. Then we'll
Okay. So you're saying there's a gun. It's my gun. It's used in a murder. Someone's dead now. I'm responsible. We all agree with that. But now because I'm magic, because I'm a wizard, I got the Harry Potter thing going. You can use my magic to bring that person back to life. You can change your mind, if you will. Do you not use that power to bring that person back?
So the only way your argument wins, you have to have magic power. The magic is involved.
I'm speaking hypothetically here, but you see, because the difference between killing a person with a firearm is you can't change after the fact. But a pregnancy, you do have the power to change your mind.
Yeah, so by killing another person.
If you could change your mind
by
over
killing another person,
homicide, why wouldn't you do it?
I can't.
But if you could, would you?
But you can't. We're not going to play this.
If you could, would you?
No, because it's
a philosophical question.
No, it's not, because what you're saying is that the choice you made ended a life. Now, if we could bring it back, that would be great. And you're saying the choice you made started a life. Now we could kill it. Isn't that great? No.
Yes, you can change your mind, because that's what happens to live in a free society. That's
no, because you can't. But again, your analogy, your hypothetical situation is not the same, because the answer to yours for the mother is to kill somebody as being the answer. Whereas the other side is bring somebody back to life magically would be the answer. Well, of course, we're all going to say, yeah, let's magically bring somebody back to life. But the other answer on the other side is to kill somebody, and no. So Diana was asking, if killing someone in war is murder? Again, I've made this very clear. I'm talking about an innocent human being who has done nothing wrong. There is no aggression. There is no malice. This is an innocent human being. If somebody's facing you with malicious intent, and they have a weapon and they're gonna try to kill you, that is self-defense, because there's malicious intent. Intent is important. The malicious intent, I cannot simply defend myself against someone who's not an aggressor. I cannot do that. If somebody breaks into my home and they go walk towards my TV and I shoot them in my home, they're not an aggressor towards me. I go to jail for that. They're not aggressive towards me. I'm not defending myself in that situation. So in war, no, it's not murder in the same way that the other person is not innocent. If that person is an aggressor and you intentionally take out that aggressor, in self-defense before they have a chance to kill you in that same aggression, that is defense. That's it. But again, here is a person who has never done anything wrong. There is no malicious intent. They're not an aggressor. How can that person be the one to pay the price for what everybody else has done? Why is that the person? And the answer is, it's convenient because you don't have to look at them. It's convenient because they're not human. You dehumanize them, and that's like, well, that's now why that person can take the brunt of everything. Here's everybody's choices. Here's all they do. Here's the product of that. Here's this person who doesn't do anything. Okay, the easiest thing is, well, let's make it convenient. It's not really a person, so now they don't have a voice. They can't be protected. They can't stand up. They can't wave their little flag and say, hey, protect me. They can't do any of that.
Well,
so it's just convenient. It's convenient to get rid of them.
In our society, personhood doesn't begin until birth anyway. So it's not a person.
It's a human being.
But it's not a person.
Okay.
Legally, it's absolutely not a person.
But it's a human being that needs protection. We protect dogs. We protect eagles. We protect all these things. We have to protect humanity.
One last thing here for Diane. Diane is saying, so what if the person you're killing in a war was drafted? Aren't they innocent? And Diane, I agree with you that, it's this whole other philosophy that I have, that the people who fight each other in a war are not really enemies. It's the people who are directing the war that are really the enemies, and those are the enemies of both the people fighting on both sides.
Well, it's the same thing. If you, even in war, if the person drops his gun and says, I surrender, you can't kill them.
Mm-hmm.
They're no longer an aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
So even in war, aggression sets the rule. You cannot kill a person even in war if they surrender. Intent and aggression is the determining factor if it's self-defense.
Okay. Well, it's going to be another impasse because I still think that women need to have autonomy over their bodies all the way until the pregnancy is carried to term. Once the baby is actually born, then to me it becomes a person and it is entitled to protection of the law and all of the rights that come with it. I would like to see society do more to prevent unwanted pregnancies and also to take care of children once they are born, especially children who are unwanted, especially if we're going to take this malicious approach towards a woman's right to choose, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's not malicious at all. There is no malicious act happening against the woman. The child is innocent.
Millions of women would disagree.
Right, but logically, it doesn't hold up. Logically and morally, it doesn't hold up. You have to dehumanize the baby in the womb in order for the logic to hold up. You have to say it is not a human being. It is not a human being that deserves protection. That's the only way it logically and morally holds up. You have to dehumanize, and we all know what happens when you dehumanize people. Blacks aren't really people, right? Jews aren't really people.
I know what you're saying, but again,
as long as you dehumanize them, you can do whatever you want.
There's a clear bright line between a person and a not, a person who's not born. They're not considered a person,
but they're a human being, and you have to.
It's human DNA,
right? It's a human being. You have to dehumanize them. You have to say it's not a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say it's not a human being in order for your logic.
Or we have to say that the woman's
to
right to change her mind, the woman's right to control what happens in her body,
she already
outweighs the right to life of someone who is inside her body.
Right, but that logically doesn't hold up, and that morally doesn't hold up. Again, you have medical situations where that cannot happen. You have conjoined twins where there's two of them together, and if one of them says, "I know the science exists," okay, now we have the science where you can 100% separate them, and they both live, and one says, "I want to do that," and the other one says, "I don't." One of them has to give up their autonomy. Medically, one of them has to give up their autonomy. That's the medical situation that they're in.
You're dealing with living, breathing,
right, again,
self-aware, conscious human beings who are outside the womb, not inside.
And that's why we go back to the only way your argument holds up is to dehumanize the fetus. Dehumanize it. That's what you have to do. And you yourself said humanity is irrelevant.
Well, again, to me, it comes down to autonomy. But anyway.
So as long as we can, as long as you can dehumanize people, if you can dehumanize a person, then you can do whatever you want to them. And that's what we have to do. We have to bring the value of human life back into our laws. Then that's the logical, moral obligation, unless they're not human beings.
So maybe since dehumanization is bad, we're going to talk about how we treat immigrants and prisoners and the poor and the sick and the elderly and so on.
Maybe that'll be a future discussion. So thank you for joining us on here. This has been A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall, talking again about abortion, and it did not devolve into a fist fight. It can be done. That's why we're here. That's why we have this show. We do this because these discussions have to happen. We
Yes,
need
they
to be
do.
doing these things, and it needs to be done in a way that
And we don't agree here,
Yep.
but
that's
You
the way it
know.
is. Until next time, it's been a valid answer. See you guys later.
thank you.